Welcome back to Film Snob HQ. The road to Avengers Doomsday continues. We last spoke about Captain America Civil War. We talked about Deadpool. We talked about the Fantastic Four. We're back to the Fox universe again. And it's around this stage I feel like the Fox universe is starting to get tired. This film I'm going to talk about today is a film that I really enjoyed in theaters. However, I've watched it 3 or 4 times since seeing it in theaters. And every time I watch it, I really struggle to finish it. It's not a terrible film. There's definitely a lot of interesting ideas in there. There's some great character work, but I just find it unnecessarily long. It's 2.5 hours long, and mostly just a bit boring. It's definitely better than some of the other films in this franchise, but it is feeling tired. I am talking about X-Men Apocalypse. So let's start with the good and let's talk about the plot a little bit. So we are now 10 years on from Days of Future Past. It's a 10-year anniversary to when Eric, aka Magneto, lifted the stadium and tried to kill the president. He's gone into hiding. He's got a family, a wife and a child. And I will say that this is maybe the best Magneto storyline out of any X-Men film. If they had have kept focusing on that, I think they were in for something really, really special. However, that's all resolved in the first 30-40 minutes, and then it's just him making generic garbage in the sky. I completely forgot about that era of superhero films where there's just a period of time where Fantastic Four, Suicide Squad, X-Men Apocalypse, a bunch of these films, their climax was the villain created a mess in the sky. And that's definitely what happens in here. Charles Xavier is back. The existing X-Men are reuniting. We have a new group of X-Men. We see a young Scott Summers, aka Cyclops. We see a young Jean Grey. We see a young Jubilee, although she doesn't do anything in the film. She's really just there as a cameo. And that's my biggest problem with the film. Is this film is loaded up with glorified cameos. Archangel is in this movie. Doesn't do anything. Psylocke is in this film. Olivia Munn, who's a fantastic actress, and I think it was given more to do, would be fantastic. But she's just there to be there. Storm is in this film and has nothing to do. All of these characters, once Apocalypse recruits his 4 horsemen, which is a cool concept. I love that idea of him assembling a team of villains. We don't see that very often, except for in X-Men films, I guess, because Magneto also has a team. But once he gets them, they're just lackeys. They just don't have anything to do. They just look intimidating and put rubbish in the sky. That's it. One of the best sequences in the film is Quicksilver's return to the X-Mansion. This time it's a slow motion kind of speed run to Sweet Dreams, which is fantastic. We have the return of Moira McTaggart, played by Rose Byrne from X-Men First Class. She's a welcome return. But ultimately, the film's just a bit messy. It's 2.5 hours long, and I don't really know why it's that long. Mystique is now kind of gone underground. She's kind of a notorious figure. She's going around saving mutants from captors and stuff like that, and that's a really cool storyline. I like that for her. Charles is, trying to keep the school going and make it more of a school again after, the events of Days of Future Past where he'd kind of lost his way. So there's things going on. It just doesn't feel very cohesive. It just feels like there's a lot of different ideas pigeonholed in here. Now, I haven't read Age of Apocalypse, the comic book this is supposedly based on. In fact, X-Men are one of the comic series I've read the least of. I have read Days of Future Past and I have read the Dark Phoenix saga, but I haven't read this one. But I just can't imagine the comic book being this. Oscar Isaac plays Apocalypse. A lot of people had issues with his look and the fact that the makeup kind of restricted him. I don't mind the look. I think it's not too bad. I think, I'd rather that over CGI, especially because the CGI in this film is a bit hit and miss. When it works, it really works, and when it doesn't, it's kind of obvious. So I'm glad they went kind of practical with the makeup. Wolverine has a cameo, and I can't believe I'm saying this. I wish Wolverine was in this film more. I love Wolverine, but, by the time we get to X-Men First Class, I was glad to give Wolverine a bit of a break, but I would have, maybe welcomed him back in this one to do a few more things. Yeah, it's fine. It's entertaining. There are cool moments, at the end when they all show up in the comic accurate costumes. That's really cool. I like that. There's some great fight sequences, but again, when Apocalypse is kind of rebuilding the world in Egypt, it's just 4 mutants fighting 4 other mutants. It's X-Men: The Last Stand had a bigger fight. Do you know what I mean? That movie came out 10 years prior. So it's fine. You know, there's some really wonderful moments. The Magneto storyline I cannot express enough. I love what they did with him in this film, especially the first part of the movie, like his kind of rebirth and having a family, and then having to embrace being Magneto once again. All of that's really, really cool. But everyone else there just seems to be there as eye candy for the most part. So it's fine. It probably won't, rank too highly. My ranking of the film has gone down a lot since I first saw it, but there's still things to enjoy. In terms of characters returning to to Secret Wars and Doomsday, I don't think we're going to get any of the young cast. I don't think we're getting Alexandra Shipp. I don't think we're getting Olivia Munn. I don't think we're getting Ty Sheridan. I don't think we're getting Sophie Turner. We'll probably get, I imagine, Jennifer Lawrence. But in terms of the new cast, I don't think we're getting any of them. I just don't see, well, maybe Evan Peters as Quicksilver. That'd be kind of fun. You know, he played Ralph Boner in WandaVision as a bit of a misdirect. So I wouldn't mind him coming back as Quicksilver. But the rest, I don't think we're going to see. I don't think we'll see Archangel. I think if they're going to do Apocalypse in the MCU, they'll wait and do it properly, or at least the way they kind of envision it. So I don't think we'll see any of those. So not a lot of kind of new characters returning, in my opinion. I could be wrong. I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think I am. That's it. It's a fine movie. Next up is Doctor Strange.